This is a powerful new
We're going
concept.
to revolutionize
It's
voice
really
messages
all
where
about
we
data
want to get
collection and
change.
analysis.
We need to have an active
fresh
voice.
ideas are what we
A
fresh
passive
ideas
voice
are what
won't
we
get us
really
where we
need.
want to go.
You are listening to Active Voice with your host Llewellyn King. Our guest today is Yash Patel.
Good day and welcome to Active Voice. Today we start a series which I am calling The Birth of a New Reactor. My guest is Yash Patel, founder and CEO of AMReactor, an ambitious startup that aims to create a series of nuclear reactors fueled not with uranium, but with thorium, a much more abundant element in nature. Yash believes thorium offers many advantages over traditional uranium light water reactors, including greater safety and less nuclear waste. Yash, welcome. What would possess you to found a startup that is going to build an entirely new kind of reactor? It's not entirely new. There's been some versions of it down through history, but basically new these days. There is no operating thorium reactor in the United States. There hasn't been since the 1960s.
Yes. So the reason why is because the goal behind this and my personal goal in the vision is to democratize energy. And energy is such a fundamental need for humanity to sustain, survive, and advance. And as a background of myself, I'm a nuclear engineer where I designed several reactors throughout my academic years. However, as I was going through element by element and different design iterations, as you are aware, since 1960s, there have been over like hundreds of different designs the way you can carve out a nuclear reactor. And I wanted to go with the right way and wanted to see which makes the most sense, not for now, not for immediate future, but for the long-term sustainability of the energy corridor. So this is where I came across thorium and particularly thorium breeder small modular reactors. And I wanted to utilize some of the safety aspects that I wanted to build upon the pioneers of like 1960s and 1940s. And based on that, I realized that the solution itself was a mixture of a molten salt reactor combined with a breeder salt, which turns out to be the thorium. And because of the abundance and the non-proliferation portfolio of thorium, it made an obvious sense to me that this is the route that I want to take. It took quite 2.5 years to come where we are today, but a lot of iterations had gone into it.
Maybe you would like to enlarge a bit on the safety aspects of a thorium-based system.
Oh, absolutely. So this is the safest reactor that is out there. There is no other safer reactor. The reason why there are 4 reasons. Number one, it's thorium. Thorium is considered a non-proliferation, meaning it cannot be weaponized by itself because it's a fertile fuel. Second is that it operates on atmospheric pressure compared to any kind of water pressure reactors or boiling water reactors, where there are mechanisms that it can actually blow out and you can have a meltdown within the reactor. The third, solid fuel is not what we are utilizing. What we are utilizing is molten salt. Essentially, our reactor is already molten. It cannot be melted. It's already in that stage. And the fourth is that we are not utilizing water, and water has this unique property where it expands and is quite unpredictable at a triple point, which occurs into the steam turbine side of things. And we wanted to make sure that we are away from it. So that's why we used a supercritical CO2 turbine for our power generation. So these are some
What
of
is going to be the power of your reactor? Do you have a number of megawatts in mind? You said small modular reactor, but that seems to run everything from 10 megawatts to 350 megawatts. Where do you fit in that scale?
So for us, we have 2 different designs. I want to focus on the commercial side of things. Would like to focus between 100 megawatt electric to 300 megawatt electric. That is the range that we're looking for. However, for the indigenous and like off-grid systems, we also designed a 20 megawatt reactors. And those reactors are more typically be friendly for terrains and like off-grid islands or little like personal solutions.
I'm wondering if a layman, and indeed I'm a layman, if you could take us through what happens. Thorium is not a nuclear material in the sense that it's not like uranium, it's not fissile. So it has to be ignited by a small charge of uranium. What happens then?
So once you actually have uranium-233 in your fuel cells or in your core, the reactor core, what happens is that we have a thorium blanket. So something that's unique to our design is that we are not a single fluid design system. We are a dual fluid system. The dual fluid meaning we have two fluids that are working and they're going through the membrane or the core of my reactor. The fluid number one is my fuel salt, and the fluid number two is going to be my breeder salt. My fuel salt is the carrier for uranium into my reactor, and the fluid number two, which is the breeder salt, it actually has a thorium which carries. As it passes through my reactor core, it goes through a membrane where it slows down the neutrons. As those neutrons are being slowed down and as they're being separated and they're being split, the neutrons are being captured from the uranium reaction into the thorium. Now, thorium within like 30 minutes, it goes into protactinium. Once it turns into the protactinium, it goes through our loop and we have a separation channel where we actually extract the protactinium and we isolate it through our proprietary system for about 27 and a half days, where it turns into uranium-233, which then is being dumped into our fuel line. Essentially, we are able to create our own fuel from our own thorium. So we are utilizing thorium as a fertile material that is in order to get us more fuel as we go through the cycle. So essentially, it makes its own uranium, and the uranium turns itself into splits itself into protactinium by the reaction with thorium, and it's kind of like a perpetual loop, if you may.
Yosh, this sounds remarkably like perpetual motion. And everybody knows there is no such thing as perpetual motion. So what's going on here?
That's very true. It's perpetual. It looks perpetual. It seems perpetual, but it's actually the conservation of mass is the limiting factor for us. So essentially, we are using the thorium that's already there, and that's being converted. It's just a conversion of mass from one element into the other, which is going from thorium to uranium. As we are depleting the thorium, making it into uranium, which is actually heating up the reactor and everything, we have something called an online fueling system. This online fueling system will only be attached to my breeder salt channel, where I'm adding more thorium as we need. So essentially, it's just a molten salt that we can have online fueling, zero downtime, zero operational risk, and we have a continuous cycle of, and that's the reason why it seems perpetual motion.
So that in fact you have not a lot of nuclear waste, which is something that concerns a lot of people. How much nuclear waste do you have, say, after an operating period? You give it to me 10, 5 years, whatever, compared with what would have happened with a light water reactor and just uranium.
So something that we are eliminating with our design itself, which is through the molten salt, is that we don't have any long-living actinides that actually become part of our waste stream or waste management system. What we do, we recycle it through our own salt channels, and as it goes to the reactor core, those long-living actinides are actually being utilized. Or there's a process called oxidation, where we're actually extracting some of these heavy metals as they go by, and we're able to extract those and isolate them, and we can utilize those. So what we are doing, we have this biological function that we came across. It was in the mycelium and bacterium, where we want to integrate that into our waste stream of our design. And that essentially will eat up our nuclear waste, and it will be providing us tritium, which we can also go back and use it as a source of energy.
And once you bring these to market, how long do they run between refuelings? Today's light water reactors, which provide about 20% of our power, have to be refueled, and it takes a couple of months every 18 months or so.
Mhm.
How often between refuelings for you?
That's the best part about Reactor. We do not. We have online refueling, meaning we have zero downtime when we are actually refueling our system. We would have maintenance downtime, and that is at the years of 15 years, because that's when we need to replace our pumps and our heat exchangers. And the core itself is the life cycle of our core, the graphite core that we have, is about 62 years. So after 60 years, we need to remove the core and we need to bring a new core in.
What is the impact on the materials of which the reactor is built by this flux of uh, your your flux of radioactive materials?
Actually, so that has been much of our IP and much of our patented technology that we wanted to introduce into this reactor. So we actually came across special coatings and special materials and a combination of such, which allowed us to have less cracking and less neutron penetration through the membrane. This was the actual problem that happened in 1960s, where they essentially call it a plumbing problem, where they were having cracks because of the heat because the thermodynamic property that carbon or graphite goes under, where it expands and then it swells and then it contracts. And that actually really compromised the structural integrity of the reactor, but at the same time, some of the pipes where they were joined, the bolts and everything. So we actually came across like several different kind of materials which are very much of an interest to us, and different coatings that we want to apply it to our reactor to address all of these issues that were back in 1960s.
Your reactor is radically different to any on the market today. How much of the materials, how much of the fabrication can you buy off the shelf, and how much has to be tailor-made for you?
So the tailor-made would be our pumps, which we are actually designing right now. We actually are completing our something called DFM, which is designed for manufacturing. So we already have designed the pump, and now we're actually figuring it out how to 3D model that for a manufacturer to manufacture it for us. The other one would be our heat exchangers, which we are working with a couple of vendors in order to produce one for us that actually meets our scale. The rest of the stuff is very locally sourced, where we have many fabrication shops and foundries where we can get off the shelf or from their factory. We can just ask them and place an order to get a bunch of pipes, metals, and bolts and nuts that we can all put together. And then based on that, we can have our first initial prototype, start running our nuclear fuel cycle.
I noticed the company is registered in Texas, and you, in fact, are talking to us from California, but that doesn't mean a lot. Why Texas? And where would you build your first reactor?
So Texas is a unique space. It's geographically very suitable for us for transportation. It is also the place where there are a lot of foundries and local vendors that allows us to purchase these off-the-shelf products that I can work with them closely to get the product that we need for our prototypes and our commercial deployments. So that's the reason why we wanted to be in Texas. We also wanted to be centrally located to United States, so 2 hours plus or 2 hours minus, we are like in the right time zone, allowing us to operate. And at the same time, the office of Governor Abbott has been very welcoming for a company like ours into their portfolio. As in, this is a new tech company. It's kind of like the new Silicon Valley. That's what his vision is behind Austin and other places. So that's where we envision our HQ1 to be. And for our first reactor deployment, we would like to have a prototype first, which is within the 18-month timeline for ourselves. And that will be at our HQ, a small tabletop model that shows how the fluids are working and how everything is flowing. And for our initial first prototype, we'll be working with either INL or there's this land
INL
owner,
is the Idaho
Idaho.
National.
Yes, sir.
And
Idaho National Laboratory, as they
yeah,
will so we would like to work with them to deploy our reactor somewhere in Idaho, the very first prototype. So this way they can test it and they can give us certifications on it with the DOE, Department of Energy, and NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Committee as well. And we also have some private landowners in Nevada and in Kansas, where we can also deploy our reactors.
That's very encouraging. What is your time frame to building your demonstration? When do you plan to start? Is it next week, next year, year after?
We started 2.5 years ago, sir. So, Llewellyn, so that's a great question. So we started a while ago. However, it's a fantastic question. And from the timeline perspective, what we want to do it the right way, and there are certain steps that we need to go through. So one of the first step is that we need to create a prototype that's non-nuclear or non-radioactive. So for that, we have a timeline right now of 18 months where we want to. So by like Q3 of 2027 or Q4 2027, we want to have a prototype being built. And that is a tabletop that shows how all of our fluids, our molten salts, are actually circulating, our pumps are reacting, and how our heat exchangers exchanging heat. And there obviously will be a electrical source to this. There won't be a nuclear source to it. So it allows the regulatory bodies to see from the MEP side, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing side, that this reactor is functioning and working. So it's kind of lowering that risk. The next stage for us is that post 18 months of the prototype development, we have another 1 year to 1.5 years, depending on the regulations, that allows us to accelerate us or they can slow us down. But we are trying to be on the accelerated pathway with the current administration, where it allows us to deploy our reactor within 1 year after the first successful prototype demonstration.
What is the situation with regulation, with licensing? The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has not licensed a thorium reactor ever.
They haven't.
And does this mean a huge amount of going back to basics, or can you have certain assumptions that have been proved elsewhere in the nuclear industry?
So it's very interesting. We actually are in active discussion with both DOE and NRC. And what I have found is a lot of welcoming and a lot of resources that are being spent towards advancing the nuclear reactor under this current administration. And what I realize is that there are so many resources. And with the NRC, they're actually working with us. As you alluded towards, Llewellyn, is that it's a first of a kind reactor for them. It's a FOAK, that's how they call it, and they want to license it. So it was very difficult for them to have an envelope package for us that, hey, do you fit in this like table of contents? This is what we need. So we are actually working with them very closely right now. We're developing safety analysis report. We're utilizing MCNP, Monte Carlo end particle analysis, and all this like different simulations which NRC uses and DOE uses in order to evaluate the reactor. And based on that, we're trying to make case studies for NRC, and they're working with us as to like what else and what are the requirements they need from us in order to get the correct licensing and us into the commercial phase of our technology.
What do you see as the customer? Will the customer be a utility company, or will it be, say, a data center? Who do you envision as buying your first reactor?
So it's very true. My first reactor, I think it'll be a privately owned data centers or a hyperscaler company, just because of the nature of how they're accelerating. And currently, there is a deficiency in the market for energy for them. And what they are being told and what they want to do is local production and local consumption. And this is the perfect portfolio that we fit in. What I see ourselves as long term is we want to collaborate, and we will be collaborating with our utility providers and utility service providers. And what I see is that we will be deployed in line to already their existing infrastructure, allowing them to produce more power from the same infrastructure without having a need for huge capex for them. So the trivial answer is like long term, that's the goal. Everyone is going to be utilizing our reactor in one way, shape or form. Either it's from the construction company that's just trying to build data centers and they want to have local consumption, have a sovereignty around the energy that how they can have their AI farms and their data centers. And at the same time, for the civilian purposes, it will be through utility companies or some off-grid solutions. And for DoD and military, that's something that we can work with them as to how they see us fit in their portfolio and in their operations.
There are about six, I think it's six, small modular reactors in the market now.
Sir.
In some stage of development, some have got preliminary licensing, some have not. And all of them are different in design and ownership. So it's a very creative time in the physics of nuclear and the engineering of nuclear. Is this a benefit to you, or are they competitors?
For decades now, there were like two sides of our scientists and our forefathers who were the nuclear pioneers. And every one of them always mentioned thorium is the way to go. It is the one way that is for the humanity and for the sustainability of the nation itself, from the abundance of the supply chain down to how safe these reactors operate. However, due to the Cold War and the situation, we went the other route of the water reactors and whatnot. But that's kind of like where they pinned thorium reactor to the side. But this is a time that we want to bring it back to the market because right now the market needs it, it's ready, and we want to be innovative leaders in this group. We do not want to be building it based on something that's legacy, that they're like, okay, there was this safety concern and add more mechanical instruments to control it. Versus what we are trying to do is we engineered a solution that's based on physics itself. So it's better design, more innovative, and at the same time, it's more sustainable and something that we need to bring to the market.
Tell me something about yourself. You're a native of India. You're
Yes, sir.
passionately American, and you've just had a child, an
Yes,
American
sir.
child.
Yep.
Tell us about yourself
Yeah.
and your
So
journey.
I was a young 15 and a half year old in India when the family and I were given a visa to come to US on a sponsorship. And honestly, that was a turning point of my life. I am, as you mentioned, I'm very passionate American. I'm very fortunate to be out here for the opportunities that America has provided. When people mention America as a land of opportunity, I experienced that firsthand on multiple occasions. I am married. I have a wonderful wife, and I recently have a three about 28 days old baby. His name is Ayan, a fantastic little guy, keeps you busy throughout the night, and in daytime, he's very quiet and trying to figure out why. But yeah, so outside of my personal life, I'm a nuclear engineer. I was very fortunate to intern at NASA, which kind of inspired me to be a nuclear engineer. I had a mentor, and he kind of highlighted to me that physics is fantastic, and I'm really passionate about physics. However, he realized that I'm really also engineer oriented and solution oriented. He said he kind of pushed me to be a nuclear engineer, and that was another turning point in my life. And then outside of that, I was in a biopharma world, corporate world, where I have found a lot of success from the career wise. However, from the creativity, we needed to make sure that I am able to deliver and I'm able to bring value to the market. And this is where it comes in. Outside of this, I had another startup, a successful startup, and that was also on innovation side of things. So I was able to take that to the next stage. And I want to do the same thing. I want to take that experience and I want to extrapolate and implement it for AMR, where I want to take this nuclear reactor to the next stage. And my passion is learning. I really enjoy reading about new technologies that are in the market. Hiking is my love. I really enjoy the woods and I like going out camping or something, and water. I like to surf from time to time. Being in California, I take advantage of that. But yeah, so this is a bit about myself on a personal side.
Well, I think that's a place to stop this session. I wish you the best of luck in this exciting journey you're setting out on. And just one last thing, where can people reach you?
They can reach out to me at amreactor.com. That is the website, amreactor.com. And that is a website to our company. And it has a contact, and that contact leads directly to my inbox. And also you can find me on LinkedIn. and on that. Those are the two platforms that I currently have.
Yash, it's stimulating to talk to somebody who is so enthusiastic about what they are doing. Contagious, I would say. Best of luck to you. Cheers.
Thank you, Llewellyn. Cheers, and thank you so much for your time.